You know, I love this part of the season, when teams are gearing up for the Stanley Cup Playoffs, and teams that are not in the playoffs, which I tend to be cheering for, end up opening the floor to all sorts of conversations and talking points, like the topic that we have for this video, how the Montreal Canadiens went out there and won, quote-unquote, the trade sweepstakes for current LA Kings forward Pierre-Luc Dubois. By the way, yeah, those LA Kings, they're playing off against the Oilers in this playoff series, and realistically, I think Dubois is going to be like the biggest factor. If this guy shows up, if he actually comes out to play and he produces in the way that we know that he can, this could be a total game changer for the LA Kings, a guy who was somewhat disappointing this season, but we'll get into that more as the video goes on. But I get what you might be saying. Wait a minute, what are you talking about? The Pierre-Luc Dubois sweepstakes? They didn't win? They didn't trade for the guy? He's not on Montreal, how could the Habs have won this? Well, I wanted to go over some tweets, just kind of get into the mindset as to why I'm even making this video in the first place and what I stumbled across in order to give me this idea. It all started out by a post made by Connor Hrabchak from June 27th, 2023. Yeah. This is from a year ago, and he tweeted this out. The Montreal Canadiens lose the Pierre-Luc Dubois sweepstakes, panic, and immediately overpay for Alex Newhook. Now, Alex Newhook is a Montreal Canadiens player who has been pretty good in his limited stint with the team. He is signed on for a pretty cheap dollar amount, but again, we'll get into that more as the video goes on. Connor's tweet, of course, that we just looked at is from a year ago, and in fact, 4 days ago, so almost a year later, he ended up replying to his own tweet saying, yeah, the bookmarks got me. Habs fans, y'all were right and I could not have been more wrong. Take your victory lap. What exactly is Connor referring to, though? Let's go over to the biggest quote tweet of all. Alex Jodoin went out there and tweeted this out in response to the Connor Hrabchak tweet. The only one who overpaid here is the LA Kings, LOL. And you can see the numbers. Pierre-Luc Dubois in 2023-2024 had 40 points in 81 games played and was a -9. Alex Newhook in 23-24 had 55 games played, 15 goals, and 19 assists for 34 points. Now sure, Newhook was a -11, so a tad worse, but he played fewer games than Pierre-Luc Dubois. He had almost the same amount of points as Pierre-Luc Dubois, and only one fewer goal, again in 26 fewer games played. Alex Newhook, all things considered, had a much better season than PLD, and in a way you could say that the only reason Newhook was even acquired by Montreal was because the Habs didn't get Pierre-Luc Dubois. Now, if you wanted to take a time machine and bring back all the conversations from last year, you could definitely do that. Pierre-Luc Dubois, it wasn't really like the Canadiens were quote-unquote going after him, like they really, really wanted to get it done. If anything, it was more like he wanted to go to the Montreal Canadiens, and a lot of Canadiens fans are saying like, okay, well, we have leverage here. The Habs know that Pierre-Luc Dubois only wants to go there, so until Dubois opens up his options, his desired destinations to other teams, the Canadiens are realistically the only team involved in these conversations, and as a result, they wouldn't need to pay much. They have all the leverage. So, eventually, once Dubois got traded to LA, a lot of Habs fans were like, okay, fine, like, good. We did not need to trade up away stuff to get PLD, a guy who has had these issues. Is he a locker room cancer? Is he not? He's already given up on 3 teams in the past. His QMJHL draft season team, the Columbus Blue Jackets, which initially drafted him, and the Winnipeg Jets, which took him on in the first place. So now he gets sent over to his 3rd team in the NHL. It's not Montreal, and Canadiens fans take their victory lap when they acknowledge that Pierre-Luc Dubois signed an extension worth $8.5 million a year till 2030-2031. Now sure, he's only 25 years old. There still is room for Dubois to go back to the 60-form player that he was last year in Winnipeg. But, I mean, look, he hasn't really progressed beyond that ever since. That was his peak season, 63 points in 73 games played. And he's sort of entering that territory where it's like, yeah, he should be in his prime right now. And he's making a lot of money where it's like you kind of expect 60 points as a baseline for a guy who's making this much on the payroll. Meanwhile, for Alex Newhook, he produced 30-something points this previous season, but in a shortened amount of games played, so that's also a career high for him. If you do the math here, 34 divided by 55 multiplied out by 82, Alex Newhook was on a 50-point pace, which is really good for a guy who's only 23 years old, so 2 years younger than PLD. Newhook also is signed on to the end of 2027, making $2.9 mil, so the dollar amount is a lot cheaper too. Let's go out there to Twitter and see some of the replies to this thread here. How, oh, the LA Kings overpaid for Dubois and the Montreal Canadiens did not lose the Dubois sweepstakes and panic in trading for Alex Newhook. A lot of the replies go over some of the same stuff that we had talked about. The money, the reputation. Alex Newhook is a guy that a lot of people seem to like. The Habs won the PLD sweepstakes by losing it. That's some type of luck right there. And in a way, I feel like a lot of Canadiens fans from last year should be feeling very vindicated in their opinions because look, we made all the videos, we were all conversing about this in the comments section, and I would get tweet replies and messages and everything like, a lot of y'all did not like the idea of PLD coming over to Montreal because it was the easy one, and a lot of people said, yeah, it was just kind of what he wanted. PLD himself, the player, wanted that. So once he was like, fine, maybe not just Montreal, how about LA? Then the Kings were able to go out there and actually make a trade for it to work. But for the Canadiens, them getting Alex Newhook was a much better option because it's not even like they overpaid for the guy either. Here's another reply, a late first and a second, basically a second Fairbrother who will never play in the NHL. That was never an overpayment. And if you wanted to see the trade details in its entirety, Alex Newhook was acquired by Montreal in exchange for that exact price. Gianni Fairbrother, who's a prospect that unfortunately was not going to make the NHL. I mean, he had some good qualities. We did make a few videos about him over the years, but a 2023 first-round pick from the Ben Sherratt trade, that was the Florida Panthers pick, and then a 2023 second from Montreal that ended up becoming Ethan Gauthier. I think for the Canadiens, considering the fact that their 2023 draft was so good, you're kind of okay with what it is that you got. I mean, David Reinbacher is fine, Florian Xhekaj and Jacob Fowler are fine. You didn't necessarily need another extra pick, so trading that away alongside of the other stuff for Alex Newhook, I feel was a really good bet, considering the fact that Newhook was on a roll. A lot of the comments go out there and reply saying similar things. Hey, if Newhook just did not get injured, he for sure would have overtaken Pierre-Luc Dubois' point production, right? He totally would have. That line was on fire. And it really gets me thinking now for next season, how good is Alex Newhook going to be? We've seen for certain Canadiens players that a long amount of time off will usually result in a slower start when they get back. I'm thinking about Juraj Slafkovsky as the main example, but once they get fully back into the groove, that's when they start to dominate. I question this for Alex Newhook. I question this for Kirby Dach too, because of course Dach missed out on the most time out of everybody. I mean, he only played 2 games the entire season. So Kirby Dach as well, as unfortunate as his career has been because of all the injuries he has sustained over multiple years pretty much, he is another one of these guys where I classify sort of in the same realm as Alex Newhook, where it's like, yeah, there's a lot of potential here into the future. And you combine this with the young guys who are already producing, Caulfield, Slafkovsky, Suzuki. You talk about the young guys on the blue line who are going to come in here and hopefully contribute right away, like Lane Hudson. Maybe Logan Mailloux gets another chance. Who knows what happens with David Reinbacher next season. But for now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about how the Montreal Canadiens won the Pierre-Luc Dubois sweepstakes by not winning it at all. The LA Kings have themselves a chance to redeem Pierre-Luc Dubois' reputation against the Edmonton Oilers. It's kind of similar to the Vancouver Canucks Elias Lindholm thing, where a highly touted center is in this Canadian team. He really disappointed earlier on, and now, if everything goes well in the playoffs, let's say the LA Kings beat the Oilers in 5 games because Pierre-Luc Dubois shut down Connor McDavid on secondary duty when Anze Kopitar was going after the third line of the Oilers. If that is the outcome, then Pierre-Luc Dubois will be fighting back against that reputation. He will be seen as somebody who helped the Kings finally take over the Oilers. But of course, if that doesn't happen, if he's a bum in the playoffs like he has sort of been at points throughout this regular season, then I don't know what else there is to say. The guy's on the payroll till 2031. What other choice do you have if you're LA? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Canadiens winning the PLD sweepstakes. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.